I didn't think I'd live to be 35, and I knew I wouldn't have a family. It was a really bad trip. I took way too much. Anything you can think of is doable. All things seem complicated, and it makes it true of everything. And if it's true for drug addicts, it's true for everybody. Welcome back to Why Are We Here, where we ask important questions. Last week, April 22nd, was my 3rd year anniversary of being clean from alcohol and drugs and in recovery for that as well as mental health. You'll hear it called clean date, sobriety date, lots of stuff. This is the second time in the last 7 years that I've gotten to 3 years, so it's not quite as, it's monumental, don't get me wrong, big deal. But here's the bigger deal. Same day in the mail, I got my certificate that I am a certified peer support specialist. What peer support specialist? It's the first step. Like, I am a mental health professional now. It's the first step towards doing, abuse counseling, and there's a lot of other substance abuse counseling. And there's a lot of other, as I'm sure you know, lots of other certifications and things that you can get. So, we had to take a class, and there's some stuff that we had to do that I've been trying to do for 7 or 8 years. And it's always been either too expensive, too far away, a problem. We were able to find one that North Carolina was doing, or our county was somehow subsidized. It was free, which was amazing. So we had to do some stuff before and then take the class, and then you had to apply for the certificate with references, explanations. So it kind of, just to be approved and get a certificate for it, it kind of, proves to me that I'm a member of society, which for most people is just something you take for granted. But for somebody who has had the struggles and troubles that I have had, that's not something I take for granted, which is kind of cool, because that means I can actually feel a positive thing from it. Just remembering, oh yeah, you're not doing all that crazy stuff. You're being a normal member of society. The point of a peer support specialist is you use your experience with mental health or addiction, or both, usually, to help other people. And there's a lot of different kinds of jobs you can get as a peer support specialist. If you've ever been to inpatient treatment, you have, encountered peer support specialists. The first one I ever knew was the guy that drove us from our inpatient place to a meeting and back, either once or twice a week. And I hadn't even heard of it back then. This was like 2005. Since then, it's become a much more recognized thing. So, going to be looking to get an actual, probably get an actual job with that. That is one in a series of things that has either gone well or, that kind of thing recently. I also am enrolled to get my MBA. It's WGU, it's not like, it's not Harvard or anything, but it will hopefully help. In the last year, I've been trying to come up with kind of a framework to help really anybody do anything. But I just saw the 12 steps and thought, there should be a version of this for people that aren't addicts and have to almost destroy their life to use it. So started trying to modify that. Somewhere along the way, I came up with this little acronym called GAFHO, which is gratitude, acceptance, faith, help others. And it's kind of like anytime you get, been calling it dysregulated recently, anytime you get dysregulated emotionally and you start to kind of either say things you don't want to say or feel all crazy or whatever, the GAFHO thing, it really gets stuff quickly back into perspective. So I'm going to put a piece of music in this video that we are gonna make. So I've been questioning that, which led me to questioning everything. I am very much an overthinker. The on the spectrum and ADD combined with my IQs, at least there are people out there with really high IQs that either struggle with the same kind of things I do, or that it would at least, that's my truth. That's all there is to it. There's lots of reasons why saying the true thing is good, and why saying things that you don't necessarily have to say, but it gets something out there that you don't really like saying. So I was, designated as a gifted kid when I was like 4. And the IQ tests I took in college were all like 180 and above. And I always say the lower numbers because I feel like it's either bragging or somebody's not going to believe me. It's easy to see somebody's talking about having a 200 IQ. So, the lowest one was 176. That's all I can say. So those 3 things, it's kind of like a perfect storm of ability and justification and lack of focus and sensitivity, that it really, if I don't have a handle on it, how they work together, I can waste lots of time doing things that I really think are good things to do. Like, even really smart people do really dumb stuff. Critical reasoning and all the kinds of and analyzing things have always been a thing. Overthinking stuff, I am often isolated by that. Most people aren't like that, each one of those 3 things, the 2 disorders and my intelligence, I don't know, like IQ, who gives a shit? That it's only an indicator. It doesn't really mean a whole lot. It's kind of like saying ADD. What matters is the symptoms and what it's actually like. And so, the measurement means something, but what it actually represents is what is actually important. Being isolated by the difficulty of putting my thoughts into words. So conversations frequently, it either I sit there and like really have to struggle to find the words, or it can come off as like somebody thinking I'm talking down to them when I am definitely not. Like never am. And that has happened before. It doesn't happen a ton. Being isolated by all of that, ironically or paradoxically, one of the things I'm best at is seeing other people's, perspective. Usually all the other perspectives of a given thing. This isn't something I consciously do. My brain just kind of does it. So like, if 2 people are having a conversation, I can, they start to argue or whatever, I can say, well, actually, look, he meant this, and she meant this, and it like, able to help other people see other people's perspective. All of that's, it's like probably one of my main gifts, being able to see what it's like for somebody else, other people, all the time. And it goes as far as I've had to start saying that I'm an empath recently, because I've started realizing what that means. That, you can feel somebody's feelings just by either thinking about them or being in proximity with them. And it's really an uncanny thing that I don't really understand. I really kind of have to explain one thing, and that is that New Year's Eve in 1999, we had an acid party. I had a bad trip. It was a really bad trip. I took way too much. An overdose. I had been suspended from NC State I had failed a calculus for non-engineers class. When I went back, when they let me come back from suspension, I took that same class to retake. It's a policy. You either can or have to retake Fs. And like after the first week, I realized I don't need to go to class. I knew all of the math, and I knew that I knew all of the math. There was one night where I sat looking at the differential of the natural log of x. I wrote it, I drew it, and I just looked at it. And I just looked at it for like 2 hours. And I realized that I was able to see it in a much different way than I ever had before. It was truth. It was, it's really hard to describe, but I knew that it was what it was. And I knew what it was. And it was a knowing. That was the very different part. It was, I've tried to put words on this. It was like all the math that there is was downloaded into my brain. So I made an A+ in that class, going almost never, only going to the test, getting hundreds. And then I changed my major to physics, math, and economics. Coincidentally, also took 5 chemistry classes because they were fun, and found out during the 5th one, my teacher said, you have a minor in chemistry, right? And I didn't even know. So it didn't make me smarter, but it like unlocked the abstract reasoning of numbers and math that I had never had. So at that point, I knew what it was like to not understand math, and I knew what it was like to definitely understand math. So I started tutoring math and found that I knew exactly what people needed to be shown to understand what they didn't understand. I was like 19, 20, 21 years old. I didn't really know anything, relatively. So as time went on, I realized that I could do that with everything. Part of the reason that I had trouble with addiction was, how can you know everything and not be successful? How can you know everything and not be able to talk to people? How can you, all these things about inadequacy and I should be able to do this. And so it was like torture. And that's why I use drugs. And then my tolerance, I have a biologically ridiculous tolerance mechanism. If I take 20 milligrams of a thing and feel good, next day it takes 40 milligrams because I know my tolerance goes up, and not feel it at all. Take 80 milligrams and feel it a little bit. Crazy. So basically, if I was able to continue to get high on something, I would be so dependent that I couldn't get off of it. Every time I tried to get off of anything, whoever I was be around, nurse or whoever else, would tell me there's no way that you were taking that amount of that thing. I had a lot of problems from addiction. It was, I hate it. I'm ashamed of it. I never saw it as a disease or whatever. I've always seen it as a weakness. And so, that's great that it's considered a disease now. I'm not sure what I think about that exactly, but when it comes to me, I don't really, it's all kind of rolled together. It's like the being smart and the mental disorders, including how addiction is. I found out that I was given paregoric, which is like morphine, when I was an infant. So it may be that I was set to have problems with opiates no matter what I had done. But then, you have a surgery. I had knee surgery and got OxyContin, and off to the races. And there were times where, I couldn't afford that, and I would drink instead, and did a lot of dumb things drunk. And it was just kind of I didn't think I'd live to be 35, so I didn't, and I knew I wouldn't have a family. I could just tell. So I would be much more reckless and stupid. There were bad consequences of this trip also. I had a, coronal circle kind of like an eclipse. It was a dark within coronal like fire on the edge, and it was neon green, and it was there until several years ago, every second of my life. Eyes open, eyes closed. Playing baseball, trying to go to sleep, having sex, like always, it was there. And after about a year or two, I got to where I could kind of ignore it, but it was still there. And then about 15 years later, which was several years ago, approximately, one day I realized that it wasn't there. I can still see it if I want to. Like I can, if I look at bricks, a brick wall, if I want to, I can watch them like move around, and not like a video game. Like it looks like reality is changing. It's really wild. I wasn't really able to talk for several weeks. I didn't leave. I stayed at my parents' house. I went from my bedroom to the bathroom, sat in the tub until the water got cold, and then went back to my bedroom, just back and forth. I don't think I slept for a week. The morning after, like, my friend took me home during the party. It was so bad. Like I was, like freaking out, knocking stuff. I had no idea where I was. I don't remember much of that. Anyway, he ran to the grocery store to get some NyQuil, and he had a bottle of Jack Daniels, and he brought both back. I drank both like they were water. I remember I could not taste them. And for like the next 5 hours, I freaked out. So it didn't, that is a lot of, that should have knocked me out 5 times over. And it did not for quite a while. So, and I have a whole video about this trip. So I didn't mean to go into that much detail, but if this is all you see about it, it was definitely life altering. I was an extrovert up until then. It was at that point that I became awkward and hard to find words. And, some of the only good things were the skills and knowledge of math and the universe and other stuff that it kind of just gave me. I don't really know any other way to explain it. It's like it unlocked, and I've heard other people describe these, mind expanded. It's like it unlocked my perception to see everything instead of just, the stuff I saw before. So the way that it did that for math, where I just knew math, and I knew that I knew math, and I knew that math was truth and all that, it did that for everything. It did that for, it didn't like give me facts that I didn't know before. It didn't like teach me vocabulary words in Spanish, but it did make it so that I could remember almost anything. Well, I always had that, I guess. My son has that too, where like if he hears one thing one time, he will know it forever. And I had that too, and love that. My brain is just literally like a sponge. That's actually probably most of why I'm considered intelligent, is because, I don't really have to learn things. I just have to hear them. And that's not normal. Obviously, for more complicated things, it's not magic. Please, support if you like this kind of thing. These are to help people that have been, where I was. If you are in active addiction right now, all you have to do is go to some meetings, get clean, do what they tell you to do. And in a couple of years, you could be a peer support specialist also. It's very doable. And pretty much anything you can think of is doable. All things seem complicated and far off, and it's going to take so much work and time. And if you do little steps at a time, just little bits, you can't do the whole thing in a day or a week usually. So just do little bits, and you'd be surprised how quickly you accomplish like a long time dream. I think it's been at least 8 years that I have been wanting to be what I now am. It still feels almost surreal. It's like, there's no way I'm actually that. That's what I wanted to be. And like, I wanted to be it for so long, and I couldn't. And there was, and then because I couldn't, things got so bad, and then they got so much better again. And now I'm actually it. I went to that class every day. I did all of those things before it. I am the thing I wanted to be. I mean, I still have lots of things I want to be, but this one thing I really wanted to be, and I now am it. It's I'm getting goosebumps really thinking about it, because it makes it true of everything, and it makes it true for everyone. And if it's true for drug addicts, it's true for everybody. I mean, we don't think life is quite hard enough, so we try to inflict a little more pain or a lot more pain on ourselves, and then, buy commutative property on those that care about us. And by the way, if you think that you're in active addiction and it only hurts you, just, look around at the people that care about you and see if, there's no way it's not hurting them too. There was a time where I thought I wasn't hurting anybody, and then I realized that really all I was doing was hurting people. That's the only thing I was doing. I was spending money that I shouldn't have been spending on stuff I shouldn't have been involved in, like, out dealing with drug dealers and stuff, and then having things I shouldn't have, and then being high that I shouldn't have been. It was like nothing but bad for the people around you. At least you get some good, but everybody around, the people around you don't get that. So, just throwing that out there. I doubt anybody that's not an addict would watch this whole video, but again, hope it helps. Thank you. Hopefully you're welcome. I'm not a big ego guy, so I don't really think of it that way, but that is where I'm dropping it. Until next time, this side or the other. Yeah, I'm gonna take a little sip here. And of course I get something in my eye. So I really do sincerely hope that this helps at least one person, and if it helps more than one person, I will be thrilled. I appreciate you watching to this point. I can't imagine there would be very many people that'll ever see these few seconds of video. Right? I haven't really ever done a bullet point. I've never really done a script before, so I was just afraid there are too many things I'd forget. So forgive me for looking down. I've heard somebody say that recently, and I was like, we don't care. Doesn't change anything. I hope this is what I keep doing. This is what I like doing. I like having an idea, thinking about it, sit down, talk about it, edit it a little bit, and upload it. I don't know if I have enough stuff in my head that people would care to know for that to be successful, but that was my plan, was to just do a bunch of those and see what happened. So that might be coming to an end. I might start doing stuff about the economy. We have crazy things going on in the world. My political analysis is usually right on. Like there's stuff that I'm considering, but so I have, if you've seen, I'm obviously a extremely small early creator. I don't have very many subscribers or views. I had several videos do like a little better than others, but basically never really gotten any kind of attention. And I don't know if that's because of the fact that I have so many different kinds of things, or because they're just not very good, or because they're not getting in front of the right people. So I've been questioning a lot, like, should I just keep doing this that I'm doing? Something probably needs to change. I have a lot of areas of expertise. I have an economics degree. I had a shoulder replacement surgery, meaning I have like vast experience with chronic injuries, and my son's 13, and recently we've worked a bunch of things out, like I think parenting, and these aren't like things I'm perfect at. These are just things that I am some point along in the process, so anybody before me in the process, I could possibly help some. Every video I make, if you've ever watched one, at the end or somewhere, at the end and somewhere else, I talk about the fact that these are to help people. It's a success if it helps one person. I make them kind of to help myself, and more importantly, to help at least somebody else. And since they're not, like, it's not becoming more people, it's staying like 6 and 12. That's just not doing a whole lot. If I changed 6 people's day at a meeting, I would feel like I did great. But for a mass distribution type thing, like a video on YouTube, it really should start to be more than 6 at some point.